Hello, and welcome back to another Kids Talk Sports video. Today, Abe and I will be giving our round 2 recap and thoughts, and then also be predicting the round 3 results. Yeah, so I guess let's start. Where do you want to start?
Up to you. Doesn't really matter to me.
Let's start with Denver and Phoenix, because I feel like this was the least exciting, to be honest.
Yeah.
So Abe, give your thoughts on this.
Chris Paul was very good. Him and Booker were great. Michael Porter Jr. didn't really show up that much because Jokic needed him to win, and he didn't show up, unfortunately for them. So it just ended up with Phoenix sweeping them, and Jokic got ejected in the final game, which was honestly the worst thing because you have the MVP in an elimination game, and it wasn't even like it was a hard foul, but it wasn't like a punch or anything.
Except, to be honest, that didn't mean anything.
It was just a frustration foul that happened. He happened to hit his face.
But I'm just saying, I mean, I hope you agree with me, but that did not have an effect on the series, to be honest.
No, but it could have affected that game a little bit more. I'm not talking about like the series. I'm talking about like getting swept it's not a good look. So even winning one game, it's like, and this just showed you like the difference without Jamal Murray. Just because you have a good ball handler who can make those clutch shots and he can get the ball around. Kind of like another mini Chris Paul. He'll make the shots, get the ball around, kind of what the point guard's supposed to do.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with basically everything you said. I think MPJ, that was the problem for Denver. Like he played decent, I think in one of the games, but I feel like, they didn't have that second score that Jamal Murray would have been there for. And then Phoenix just like they don't have that many named players besides Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and like Jay Crowder, I guess. And DeAndre Ayton is definitely making a name for himself now. But that I just feel like that they played so much better. Like their chemistry it was clear that they were the better team. But okay, moving on. We'll go to Jazz versus Clippers. This one was an interesting series because Donovan Mitchell, he came to play, then he was fighting injury. But I mean, Kawhi Leonard getting injured for which game was that? Game 5? Game 3. Okay. So then obviously Paul George had to take on the number 1 role, and he came through. I mean, simple as that. I mean, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I agree. It kind of looked like the Clippers just barely got away with the first round, and it looked like when the Jazz were up 2-0, that was going to be over. But then Mitchell had an ankle injury, I think it was, and then there's the thing with Kawhi where people think he tore his ACL or whatnot. So it was all up to Paul George, and it wasn't just Paul George. It was people like Reggie Jackson and at times Patrick Beverly and Terrence Mann, who also had a really good game closing in the game 6. But I think what we're not talking about is how bad Rudy Gobert played defensively and I guess offensively, because he's the defensive player of the year, and he looked like he was not even close. Like it was just he wouldn't close out on the shots. He wouldn't he couldn't even hold the ball on a rebound. It was bad. And then also Jordan Clarkson, because he's the 6th man of the year and he's not giving you second half points. And you're relying on him as a role player because you can't put everything on Mitchell on top of an injury. So I felt like Jordan Clarkson should have had a bigger role. Even with like back to Gobert, you're not relying on him to score, but his main thing is defense. And if you're not showing up there for that, you're basically not an NBA player. Like you're not doing anything on either side of the ball. Not saying that you're not an NBA player, but like you're kind of like a liability. because
Yeah.
you're not doing anything on offense, and then you're not doing anything on defense, which is what you're known for. So that was put all on Donovan Mitchell. So it just didn't work out. And also Paul George also had a really good series. So it
Yeah,
had to
I
take
feel
up the
like
role of Kawhi and himself.
yeah, I feel like that the Jazz, right? Whenever they were up 2-0, I'm like, wow, they're gonna blow by this series.
Hmm.
And then everything changed. It was just like Donovan Mitchell obviously got injured. I don't know how much of a role that played. You could tell he wasn't playing his best.
Hmm.
But then, yeah, the Clippers, it just seemed like they were trying harder, and it was just then they all of a sudden went nuts.
Hmm.
Obviously went on 4-0 streak. Um, yeah, Paul George totally took over the series, and then Gobert was definitely a disappointment, like you said, especially if you're winning Defensive Player of the Year, and there's a lot of good defensive players. So I think, yeah, that was definitely
Hmm.
a letdown for the Jazz. So then we'll go to guess 76ers versus the Hawks.
Hmm.
Ave, what are your thoughts on this one?
I actually thought this was a very entertaining series. Just not. I mean, a lot of it was inside the game, but there was a lot going off, like in the actual like team, like with Ben Simmons and what do you do with him. But it was a good series. There were a lot of comebacks, almost comebacks, blowouts, a lot of highlights. Like John Collins dunking over Embiid and whatnot. Um, but the Sixers choked this thing away. Like
Mhm.
that game 4, they were up by I think double digits maybe,
Oh,
and they
20
choked that. And then
more.
game 5, they were up by what, maybe 20 plus, and
Yeah,
they still lost. And all it took was one quarter.
yeah, that's what. Yeah,
So I thought that Trey Young played really good up until that game 7. He kind of struggled in that final game, but Kevin Herter stepped up in that one, and you got to give. I mean, it's just like Embiid had a great series. Don't get me wrong. He was maybe 30 every night, giving you 30 every night. And you had Tobias Harris making some shots. Obviously, Seth Curry was very impressive in that series,
yeah,
and I think it was most. I'm not going to say it was all on Ben Simmons. This is on everybody, including the coaching staff with Doc Rivers, because he he didn't make the right adjustments at times. Like how do you choke a big lead like that
yeah,
in a critical
yeah.
game,
That's not
really?
Ben Simmons' fault.
No, I'm not. I'm saying it's equal
Yeah, I know
equal.
that's not. Yeah, I agree because yeah, like you said, that's not Ben Simmons' fault.
That's not acceptable.
Yeah, that's everyone's fault. But yeah, like you said, uh, I agree with everything you said. I just think it's so crazy to me how Hawks are getting this far. Like, if you look at the West versus the East have like two teams in the semis that have one guy that carries. And then the other side, the East has like two main guys for each team, which I feel like the East, it's just sad how they never get better, it seems. Because like how did the Wizards go out that early if they have like two good people? But whatever. Uh, I agree. Hawks. I feel like Trey Young, even though he didn't show up in Game 7, how he usually does, he still made some clutch plays at the end of the game, and that's what a good player does. So, and he's playing like really freely, like he doesn't care. He's trash talking a bunch. I love his style of play right now.
I
Uh,
think the main thing with that is like he backs it up with his
yeah,
play.
exactly. He's really entertaining at this point.
Mhm.
And yeah, I Ben Simmons. I'm sorry, but you were probably the main reason you lost the series. But uh, again, the Hawks. I feel like we're a better team, and they're kind of underdogs this whole playoffs.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm pretty sure looking today, Milwaukee is favored to win by like 8. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know how that's possible, but um, yeah. Well, I that's basically all I have for that series. So then, this one's a really interesting series: Milwaukee versus Brooklyn. Ave, what are your thoughts?
This is I said the Philly Atlanta series was entertaining, but this was by far the best series there was. Um, and it was entertaining because you had two superstars, like Kevin Durant and Giannis Antetokounmpo, going at each other, each giving you basically 40 every night, maybe even 50. And it was a really good series, and it was other things, including the Kyrie injury that affected them. Um, Obviously, Harden came back for the last couple of games, which really helped them. But I feel like with Harden, he was one of the reasons they lost. I mean, not. I mean, he had an ankle injury too, I think, but you still have to show up as if you're a superstar, at least score more than 20 points, because Kevin Durant just came off an Achilles injury and he's
Yeah.
putting up 50.
Yeah, like every game for the last. Yeah, I agree.
And you
with
could
that.
argue that like Kevin Durant is the best player in the world now after coming
Yeah,
back from
see,
Achilles injuries
that's what
1 year.
I wanna talk about that, okay? Because now everyone's saying Harden, or not Harden, Durant, he's the most talented player ever, blah, 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 blah. Listen, here's the difference. He doesn't win. That's what makes him different. That like LeBron, Kawhi, these are people that know how to win. Durant maybe puts up all these points. I'd like to mention that he also shoots like 30 times a game. Um, but then, yeah, Harden, like whenever he came back off the injury, I mean, you got to do better than that. Donovan
Mhm.
Mitchell was suffering an ankle injury, and he put up like 30 plus every game, even during the ankle injury.
Yeah.
Harden went like 1 for 10 or something the first game back.
And he hit
So,
some lucky shots
yeah,
down the
so
stretch.
then, yeah, Kevin Durant, he had a heck of a series. I'm not gonna down
Deny that.
that, but then I just feel like he's that I don't know why, but he's just not able to win
Mhm.
compared to these other elite players.
Mhm.
So I mean, they really had no excuse. If you have Harden and Durant, even without them, even without Harden, you should still win it with Durant.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, it was a really fun series to watch. Uh, again, like you said, Giannis putting up like 40 every game, Durant putting up like 45 plus. Uh, yeah, that was insane, especially whenever it came down at the end, OT.
Mhm.
Uh, Durant basically missed the winning shot, like missed a point because his foot was like an inch over the line. So
He airballed anyway. I mean,
yeah,
oh yeah, I
oh
guess
yeah,
the
no,
first one, the
yeah,
first one.
yeah, but that one, yeah, he tried the exact
Well,
same
I
shot.
mean, it's like I have one more thing to say because this you can't have. I know Durant's a really good player. Don't get me wrong here, but you have James Harden as well, and you gotta take like look at all the players who are in this league, and you got them another superstar, and now there's less stress on them. Like if you look at maybe, I mean, this is kind of opposite, but Denver, you took Jamal Murray away. Now look, like Jokic has to do everything, and you can't rely on people like Michael Porter Jr. And with the Suns, you get Chris Paul, and you go from not making the playoffs to a 2 seed because you take that pressure off of Devin Booker. Yeah, so it's you just if you're James Harden, you have to play a bigger role than just scoring 20 points.
Yeah, and shooting 1 for 10 the first game back. So
Mhm.
yeah, anyways, now we'll just give a quick predictions on the semis. So I mean, obviously it's already 2-0 in the Phoenix
Mhm.
series, but I think I think Chris Paul's supposed to be back for game 3.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know if that's gonna help him. I'm pretty sure it's gonna help him, but considering they've won 6 games in a row in the playoffs. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Phoenix in the series. They're playing when Devin Booker is playing this well. Uh, you're getting Chris Paul back. Everything seems to be clicking for them. I don't know how many people watched Game 2. That was incredible finish for the Suns. But yeah, I don't. I have the Suns winning this series. What about you?
Yeah, I say the same thing, but I'm not saying it's that of a blowout.
Yeah,
Just because if you look at the Clippers, they came back 2-0 twice. because they were down 2-0 to the Mavericks and people count them out. They were down 2-0 to the Jazz and they also counted them out. So I'm not saying that Phoenix won't win, but I have maybe Phoenix in like 6 or possibly 7, just because, people have been counting them out for a long time. And I feel like and we got to give Ty Lue some credit here, because people have been saying, oh, he's just a good coach because he had LeBron in Cleveland or whatever the situation may be. He just took a team that Doc Rivers couldn't take to the conference finals, and he did in his first year. So I feel like they should give him a lot more credit. But as for the series, I think it's going to be 7 games. No, even though they're down 2-0, there's just more experience for the Clippers when they're down, and they seem to play better, just like Denver did.
Yeah, I also think Kawhi Leonard is going to make an appearance at some point in this series, and whenever he does, I think that'll also give him a boost. So I agree. I think it goes to at least 6 games, possibly 7, and then going to the Milwaukee versus Atlanta series. Obviously, 1 game will be done by the time we put out this video, like I said, but I'm gonna go with. Oh, this is such a tough one because I'm going for the Hawks here because I don't think they're ever gonna go again if they don't get anyone better. But then I feel like Giannis. This is like also one of his best chances. I'm gonna go with the Milwaukee here in 7. Yeah. What about
you? It's gonna be interesting because who do you have guarding Trae Young? So he might go up for a lot of points, and you have Giannis, who's going to guard Giannis, and if he can be stopped, so they're both gonna maybe have kind of like the Bucks Nets series where each star player went off. I'm gonna say Bucks in 6, just because like I haven't seen Giannis been stopped yet, but I have seen Trae Young have some off nights. So it's just of who can have a consistent play every game.
Yeah, and who can be for the team also. Like Trae Young can have a more of an effect on his team because he can pass it better. But I really don't want to count out Trae Young because he's literally been the underdog in like every single series.
Yeah.
And I knew he was going to come through in the 76ers series.
Yeah.
And I love Trae Young. I don't want to count him out, but then at the end of the day, one team has to win, and I feel like that's Milwaukee. So yeah, that's it for this video. Let us know your predictions in the comments, and make sure to share, like, and subscribe.